In the world of high-stakes engineering, trust is a structural requirement. You don't build a skyscraper without a blueprint, and you don't move $25 million without a face. When a building collapses, we look for the shear stress on the steel or the liquefaction of the soil. But in the digital age, the most catastrophic structural failures happen in the trust layer. It began in 2024. A mid-level finance worker at a global firm received a communication that appeared to originate from the group CFO in London. It was marked private and confidential. It detailed a secret acquisition, a transaction that sat outside the standard accounting architecture. It was urgent. It was unorthodox. The clerk was trained to spot the cracks. He suspected a phishing attempt. He did exactly what the manual dictated. He requested a face-to-face confirmation. He demanded to see the blueprint of the deal before he authorized the liquidity. He was invited to a video conference, and when he logged in, his defenses were not just bypassed, they were dismantled. On his screen sat the CFO, along 5 other senior colleagues, faces he had seen in annual reports and internal webinars for years. They greeted him. They discussed the project specifics, technical hurdles, and all. They authorized the funds. It was a consensus of peers. Over the next 3 hours, the worker executed 15 separate transfers. $25.6 million flowed out of the accounts, but it would be one full week before the real CFO returned from leave. It would be then that the firm, the engineering giant Arup, would realize that for 3 hours, the clerk had been the only biological entity on the call. To understand how a firm that designed the Sydney Opera House could be dismantled by a ghost, we have to look past the term deepfake. We have to look at the synthetic identity preset. This was a crime of information asymmetry. The attackers didn't breach Arup's firewall, they breached their public record. Every high-level executive at a firm of this scale is a victim of their own success. They have hundreds of hours of high-definition video available online, keynotes, media interviews, shareholder briefings, and so on. The criminals use generative adversarial networks, or GANs. In this architecture, 2 neural networks are locked into zero-sum game. The generator creates a synthetic image of the executive. The discriminator attempts to find a single pixel out of place to prove it's fake. They play this game millions of times a second until the math becomes indistinguishable from the man. But a boardroom is a living environment. This was a real-time synthesis. The attackers used the puppeteer interface. When the clerk asked questions, a human operative on the other end answered. The AI took the operative's mouth movements and vocal frequencies and reskinned them with the CFO's biometric data in real time. It was a digital skin suit made of math. Clearly, some will ask, why did the clerk believe it? Because the attackers exploited a biological vulnerability I call the subtractive map. Human psychology operates on truth default theory. If 6 people are nodding, our brains subtract the possibility of a conspiracy. The $25.6 million was laundered through a labyrinth of shell companies within minutes. It is gone. But the financial loss is trivial compared to the identity crisis. We're now entering the era of KYX, Know Your X. Identity is no longer a constant, it is a variable. In the Arup case, the X was the CFO's face. When the police entered the Hong Kong office, they found no evidence of a breach. No malware, no Trojans. The system was pristine. The firewall had stood firm. The attackers proved that if you can control the X, you can control the authorization. We have reached the horizon where seeing is believing has become a liability. The Arup heist was a demonstration that in a world of high definition synthesis, your identity is just data, and data can be harvested, modeled, and deployed. You think you know who you're talking to, but the math is getting better, and the ghosts are getting hungrier. This was your first briefing. Be very careful who you trust on your next call. The Universal Template.